So I just wanted to thank our guests today for coming back. We had them on Wednesday when we had our restaurant food and beverage meeting. So welcome Representative Mary Isaacson, State Senator Larry Farnese, and Maura Shenker from the Temple Small Business Development Center. So I am going to start us off. I'm going to share a screen. So I think, give me 1 second. And then we have a presentation that we ran through yesterday. We've changed it a little bit to accommodate our retail needs. So that's what we're going to look at today. Oh, give me 1 second. One thing and then another. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to back us up. You guys hear her there?
Yep, we can hear.
Okay, I'm going to start us up here and then present. And then let me know if you guys can see everything. You got it?
Yep.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so we'll get started. I guess, Anne, you want to just kind of run through the rules of engagement here today?
Sure. So welcome everybody to the business roundtable that Chris was referring to. I am your handy dandy admin for today. So, you know, I imagine at this point in time, we've all become very, very familiar with Zoom, but just in case that is not the situation, I'm going to be making sure that folks are muted throughout the call, just so that way we don't have any ambient background noise. If you have a question throughout the presentation, feel free to send me a chat or just chat everybody in the comments. You can also raise your hand by clicking participants, and then there should be an option for you at the bottom of that section. So I believe that should be everything. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a chat. And there we go.
Okay, great. Much like yesterday, I just want to introduce myself and Pam. Many of you may have met us virtually through email, maybe in person. I'm the executive director of our bid, and Pam is our recently recruited retail recruiter who we've redirected to triage some of our most immediate concerns, help you guys through this process, be a good resource. She has a lot of experience in tourism, in food and beverage, and in corridor management, so she knows what's up. I've already welcomed our guest today, so I'm just going to move on. Just a little brief overview of our agenda today. We're just going to talk about where we are right now in the process. I'm going to open the table for our elected officials for a kind of just an open Q&A for questions that you might have for them. They both work at the state level, so they might not be intimately familiar with things that are happening on the local level, but I'm pretty sure we have someone from Commerce here too. Yes, we have someone from Commerce, so if anything comes up, Joshua Stratton-Rayner is from Commerce, and he might be able to jump in on any local things that we need answers to. So state of affairs, this is what the map of Pennsylvania is currently looking like. Did it change? It's changed. All right, I got to get the updated map. Do we have more counties in the yellow than in the red now?
Yeah, well, he announced today he's opening up more counties from Allegheny on down to the southwest.
Great, I will update this. But one thing for sure, Southeast Pennsylvania, our corner of the state's going to stay red for a little while. Okay. I think we're all pretty familiar with the state, with where we are now in the red zone, life-sustaining businesses, takeout only, things of that nature. This is just an outline of what yellow looks like. I've highlighted the parts that seem to pertain most to this group, which is gatherings of 25 people or more prohibited, and in-person retail is permitted, but curbside. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what curbside is going to look like. And we'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on that. I'm sure you guys have been thinking about that too. And then of course, this got a chuckle yesterday, the promised land where we all hope to go back to. And then with this particular guidance, I think is still forthcoming. If you guys at the state level have gotten more updates since Wednesday on what that might look like, I will leave it up to you to fill us in. I don't think anybody here has a large enough facility to worry about our fun fact, but I like to include that just to bring us back to reality. Always things to think about. So we were actually, Pam and I were on an International Downtown Association webinar today, and they had some thoughts on the sort of balance between e-commerce and in-person commerce. So Pam, did you want to just kind of give us some of the highlights of this slide?
What they were trying to show is this sort of sorry.
Okay, you're good.
Am I on? Okay. It says I'm muted. Okay, there we go. I think what they wanted to show us here is just the dramatic, increase that's happened in supermarkets, media, telecom, and then where everything else is. And they were making the point today that, apparel has one of the industries that's really been hit hard. And that obviously, the local businesses, the ones that cater specifically to the localities in which they are the ones that are hit the hardest. I don't think any of us, are surprised by that, but it's interesting to actually see the statistic and see how things are going. They strongly encourage, and so do we today throughout this whole presentation, that you pivot and that you start looking at this and realize that you're going to have to do things a little differently. And I think the biggest thing that we got out of the presentation today is the fact that you're going to have to, that some of these trends that are happening with shoppers are going to remain, and they're not going to go away. They're going to expect online payments. They're going to expect a little less contact. They're going to expect a lot of those things. And we might not necessarily go back to the way things were. And so when they talk about new normal, as much as I don't like that term, there really is going to be one here. And so we're going to get into some of those things as we move forward, but we just thought this was a really good, stat to show you, and thought this was important for you to see. Yeah,
and we'll get into it after we get through some other portions with our elected officials. But one of the things that was a real takeaway for us was really starting to think creatively where the opportunity is. I actually came out of that presentation feeling kind of hopeful that some of the things that have changed actually might end up changing things for the better for local retail. So I know these guys have a busy schedule, so I wanted to, what's up?
Oh, Chris, I was just going to chime in that Senator Farnese has his hand raised.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure if that was just because you wanted to hop in or you're just really excited about the topic, but.
Getting very good at this.
This is great.
As the representative knows, after a period of time, I'm like a creature of habit. I start to learn things. Just when I learn this, we'll forget about Zoom and I'll have to pick up something else. But I did want to pass on a really interesting conversation I had this morning with some folks from UPS and FedEx. They're saying that especially UPS, they're seeing the amount of e-retail that they would be seeing during the holiday season right now with the number of deliveries they're making. The problem is that from, I guess, October until through the holidays, they go out and they hire about 100,000 extra folks to come on during that period of time. They don't have that ability to do that right now. So they're really, they're seeing e-commerce that is the equivalent of those 5 weeks of the holiday season right now in May, weeks before Memorial Day. So I think to Pam's point, it's not going to let up. In fact, we're going to continue to see this surge. So it's an area of commerce, I think, that we all really need to take a look at. Because, for instance, I'll give you an example in my district, and I know that I presented with the high-rise buildings. A lot of these buildings have, like mine, had to make changes just in their lobbies to accommodate all these, the way that people do business today, retailers do business, et cetera. So you can imagine what, effects this is going to have. But you're right about that, Pam. I don't see it slowing down either, even given the information I learned this morning.
So we wanted to just open up the floor. I guess, Mary Isaacson, do you have some things some thought starters for us today?
Sure, I'll be happy to start. Hi, and you're Northern Liberties bid, and I'm Northern Liberties resident, so keenly aware of what our neighborhood looks like right now. And I look forward to it getting back to being the vibrant, place where commerce is taking place as we are quite the close-knit community. But I will say that I'm cautiously optimistic that we should hopefully start being able to plan. When you look at the schedule that the governor has been bringing out counties, starting this week with the counties that were the last to be locked down, and just announcing today that the counties that had been locked down just before that are now being released, including Allegheny County, to move into the yellow zone. So hopefully in the next coming weeks, they continue this move across the east, and hopefully we get to a point where we can go into a cautious yellow zone. And something that DCED sent out today that is food for thought as you're preparing yourselves for getting ready to get some sort of commerce going again, is if your building has been shut down, you could start either with your landlord or yourself preparations that are going to not be something you can do in a day, such as going in and start opening up water faucets and flushing toilets and checking your water heater, and for environmental things, because your buildings have been stagnant for a long period of time. And if you want to open it up to the public, that's a good way to start preparing so that you can have somebody coming into your place of business. So those guidelines were just sent out by DCED today, and I'm happy to forward them on if you don't have them, but they did a release about it. So I found that, a good way to, when knowing we were coming on this today, to kind of give you some hope and some things that we could start preparing for while you're waiting. And certainly if you need your landlord's assistance, it gives you the heads up to make sure that whatever maintenance on your establishment needs to be taken care of, that you get that started, so when you can open up, you're all ready to do so. That being said, we are certainly happy that the governor has kept us safe, and hopefully both for your employees and for yourselves, you've been able to access the resources that were made available by the state to see us all through this. And know that my office, which is right here in Northern Liberties on 2nd Street, is a resource to help you. We're closed right now, but we are available by phone, and we're still working. So we're more than happy to be here to help you as we move through this. So I'll pass it off to the senator now.
Yeah, and and the representative, she doesn't say this, but the Senate has been in session remotely. The representative has been in Harrisburg. I mean, she deserves a heck of a lot of credit. She's been going up there and having session. We've been doing it remotely, so I give you a lot of credit, Representative. Yeah,
that's what I was elected to do.
Exactly. So I think that I think what we're talking about, some of the things that we've been seeing. I just wanted to sort of get a couple points out. In terms of what's come down, for instance, from Help for Businesses, so far PA has awarded about $37 million of the $61 million that was set aside for the COVID-19 Workable Capital Access Program. The applications are now closed. And also the SBA still has emergency loans available, including the PPA loans. And you could go to the PIDC website. We did it, I think we've done 4 now. I think I'm my 5th one next week. Our telephone town halls, and we had a couple folks from UC on there, unemployment compensation, a couple of times. I had the secretary in last week, and just so you might want to let your folks know as well too, and the representative is aware, she knows this as well. I think last week we were both talking about, it may have been on a similar call like this, where the Department of Labor has now transferred 500 folks over to UC. They brought back 100 employees that were previously working specifically to handle the increase in volume. And also too, that the portals for the gig workers, we know there was some issues on them, and the Secretary has taught us that they're trying to work those out as they build different pieces of that build out. So that's sort of some of the updates that we have right now.
Yeah, and Senator, if I may interject, I went into the PUA website yesterday and did all of my weekly claims. So just as a kind of, story, I guess you can say, for those that are on the line, it was a little tenuous getting the initial claim in, and they went live yesterday, and I thought, okay, this is going to be maybe a hot mess as well, but it actually wasn't that bad. All that was really the issue is that the load time on screens was a little slow, which was probably due to volume, but other than that, I did not have any issues if that is of consequence to anyone else on the line.
Great.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear that, since we had many weeks of hearing very differently.
Yeah, trust me. Yes, I know all too well.
But no, and certainly I'm sure the Senate, but I know the House and my colleagues, we really came down on labor to get up and running as quickly as they could. And, thank you for your patience with it. As I know everyone, it's been a very scary time these past couple, I don't want to say couple months, but this came upon us and hit us, and no one was prepared for it. And certainly years ago, I'm not going to get partisan, but the majority party had cut the funding for the UC, and they had scaled back staff and offices, and it's been a Herculean task for the government to come in to try and be there and be the safety net that it should be. And I'm sorry it's taken so long to get there, but I'm glad to hear that we've finally gotten there where they're functioning and they're able to be responsive.
And we have some questions from the chat that we can pose to the officials.
I don't see any.
Does anybody have questions, comments, feedback for our elected officials at this time? All right. Well, if anybody thinks of anything that we had as last meeting, I had requested that their aides just post their emails in the chat. If anybody has anything that comes up where they need to ask either Senator Farnese or Mary Isaacson a question, or get in touch with them, or need resources, you'll have that information. So
yeah, and
okay.
again, you can raise your hand by clicking on participants or more on the bottom of your screens. Also, for anyone who happens to be on the line, you can hit *9, and then that'll raise your hand as well. And yeah.
Excellent. So our elected officials are welcome to stay on, but I know that time is precious. So if they need to jump off, we're going to move on into our retail presentation. So there were some top questions. Actually, I think we kind of covered what some of those questions were. I think they were like unemployment insurance was one of them, just access to it. And then I know we had questions about grants. So I guess one thing before I move on is that is there any other financial assistance that we might look for from the state down the line, or is that kind of concluding?
Well, I see that we just got a question from Dorothea. What I would say to you, if you're the only one working in your shop, I don't know if there's funding that is available specifically just for a one-person entity, but certainly for your so somebody, yeah, all right, Maura, you answered that there is the PPP, but you can also go and apply on the PUC for yourself. So you would have, for whatever your salary is that you've been making for yourself.
Sorry about that. I unmuted Dorothea's line in case she wanted to say anything, and I think we had some backup.
Okay, see that.
Okay, so one of the things that we wanted to encourage our businesses to do is start to craft a relaunch checklist. Yours is going to be pretty specific to you and your own needs. You might have already started to do that, but we had some thought starters. So again, we didn't really want to be overly prescriptive because everybody's business is so different, but we did want to start to sketch in some things that would get you kind of thinking, maybe thinking slightly differently. And I thought that this would be a good opportunity to actually introduce Maura, who has been on probably 1 million of these calls this week. She's very in demand. She's with the Temple Small Business Development Center. And they are a resource for all kinds of free stuff to help you guys through really specific problems. The word resources can just seem very vague, but Maura will be able to tell you a lot more about exactly how they can help your business. So Maura, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm more than happy, actually, I'm thrilled to be able to come to these types of meetings and talk directly to business owners. So the SBDC is one of 950 SBDCs throughout the country. We are funded by the SBA, so we always have up to date SBA information about the loans and different programs, because I know that there's a lot of misinformation floating around there. And we're funded by DCED at the state level and Temple University as well. So there are 16 SBDCs all throughout Pennsylvania, all at universities, and we're kind of geographically divided. So Temple SBDC serves Philadelphia, Eastern Montgomery County, and Lower Bucks. And for anybody, I know this is a no-libs group, but sometimes people have multiple outposts or, colleagues and friends. Montco strong. So Montgomery County has a grant program specifically for small businesses in Montco. That will open up again next week. They did a first round last month, and they got more funding allocated. So if you have a location in Montgomery County or have friends with businesses in Montgomery County, there is a new grant program opening, and we have some information about that. So the SBDC is here to provide all types of one-on-one business consulting around your financial situation, strategic management, planning, HR, compliance, L&I issues, and all of our services are free to you because of our grant funding. Everything that I'm about to mention and all of these meetings and all of the resources that we have are all available to you at no cost to you. One of the things I think will be most helpful for this group is our new partnership with the Institute for Business and Information Technology at Temple. So we're funded to do an e-commerce technology digitalization center specifically to assist small businesses either create or modify a website to improve your business, create or modify a digital storefront to help you enhance your e-commerce presence. We can do something kind of quick and dirty and get your top 30 products online in less than 2 weeks. We can also implement a scheduling system if you have like a repair business or delivery business, and help you with setting up remote work, protocols for you and your staff if you can't all be on site at the same time. And it's like a triage, 2 to 3 weeks. We also have a lot of people who are struggling with their existing POS systems, not integrating with the POS system that they're using online to take payments, which is causing a lot of administrative headaches and more work than you need to be doing and more effort than you need to be spending on something like that. So we will actually create, we being IBIT, because God knows I am not the most tech savvy person, we'll actually create some sort of digital bridge so that your programs can all speak to each other. Yeah, yes, I'll take questions. Was that somebody? No? Cool.
Maura's going to jump in throughout this presentation to speak on some specific points. And I think that for sure, some of the things that our retailers really struggle with are exactly the kinds of things that the Temple SBDC can help you guys with.
Yes.
So we wanted to kind of just give you guys some ideas, get you guys thinking about some things with your business plan. I know a lot of people kind of open up shops out of a passion project, didn't really have maybe much of a business plan before. Maybe it's really old, or maybe it really needs to change. That's for sure something that Temple and Maura's team can help you guys with. So just with your business plan, there are some things that came to our attention that you guys might need to rebuild or build back into your business plan. One of those things is just how a different balance of pre-orders, in-store, and online sales. One thing that came up in our IDA, International Downtown Association thing earlier today was just looking at what's working for national brands. They have big teams and they spend a lot of money figuring this stuff out. So I would say try to look to them and see how you can borrow some of the ideas that they're implementing, because they are probably not going to spend billions of dollars taking an unknown risk. They probably put a lot of research into some of the ideas that they're implementing. Thinking about rethinking your break even and your revenue. And like I said, Maura, you guys can help them with this, right?
Absolutely. We'll be offering starting July classes in QuickBooks, free classes, QuickBooks for beginners, online QuickBooks, using Excel for accounting, general accounting practices. We understand that a lot of small business owners keep minimal books and records, which makes it really challenging when grant programs or loan programs come along. You don't have all the paperwork and all of the financials, and it means either waiting or going to a third-party accountant and paying someone else to get these things for you. So we'll teach you the most simple ways to keep track of everything. And right now, tracking all of your expenses, and if you did get any of the loans, tracking what you're using any loan funds for is critical, especially if you're looking for forgiveness with the PPP. So we have some tools, once you have a handle on your finances, that you can use to make predictions. You can actually upload your financials from QuickBooks into our tool, and you can, look at what would happen, all these what if scenarios. So you can do some scenario planning. Unfortunately, we don't expect this to just be a steady climb. We do expect, recovery to be a cycle of in and out of the different zones and not always being open all the time. And, I agree with Pam that I'm not a big fan of the new normal phrase, but we really don't know how long it will take for our economy to look like it did pre-COVID-19. I've heard some macroeconomists say first quarter 2023, which seems like a really long time to live like this and with such uncertainty. So we want to help you be prepared for pivoting and living in a state of flux.
Also, just to want to put a little bit of a silver lining, in thinking about how big business has benefited, it's also really struggled to keep up, right? I think we all know that where we weren't able to purchase something that we might need, like something simple as a book from our local bookstore during this time, and then we tried to turn to the big bad business to order it, and then we didn't get it for 3 weeks. I think that our local businesses, as we're able to start doing curbside and start reopening, need to think about what those opportunities are where you can take back some of what you may have lost to big e-commerce. I keep hearing from people in the community, they really, really want us to support our local businesses, and we need to make it as easy as possible for them to do that. I also wanted to take a moment to welcome Councilperson Mark Squilla to the line. So he's on now. So if there's an opportunity at some point, Mark, for you to jump in, if you have some thoughts or feelings about some things that we're going to be walking through, please feel free. You're on mute, I think, but we can easily undo that.
I could unmute myself. See that?
Oh, I got a beard. Look at that.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not forever and we get back to some type of basics here, but you know, I figure we'll do this until we get back into real council sessions.
Yeah. It's just because your online razor company isn't delivering to you, isn't
Yeah, right. The barber's closed. Not that I ever needed it for my head, but
it?
thank you for what you're doing and happy to be a part of this.
Sure. We're just kind of walking through some thought starters for our retail business community at this point.
If you want to, I just wanted to pipe in on the last slide. You know, I threw in that picture of the hand sanitizer, you know, is one of those local opportunities. You know, we're not able to get hand sanitizers, and there are, you know, wineries and breweries who have jumped into it, our local guys who are making those things. There's local people that are making masks. There's local people doing, you know, creating things in this time, and maybe our local retailers can sort of jump on that. And I think that's one of those things where there's an opportunity for us to, you know, as people are walking down the street and you are able to reopen, if they can walk in and get, you know, Yards Brewing hand sanitizer or something like that, you know, it's a pretty cool thing that you could be selling that is really difficult to be getting online right now.
Very good. Good point. We also wanted to, I know you guys are probably thinking about this too, but the wave of gift certificate redemptions. I know you guys in particular, our retailers, had done a lot of gift certificate sales in the beginning. And it is just something that that needs to be a consideration with your cash flow, that you might start to see those people show up first, unfortunately. And then just be building into your business plan more returns. If you're going to be doing more kind of non-in-person sales, people are going to try stuff on or get it and then want to return it. It's something you would want to build into it. Sorry, my dog's whining outside. And then just in terms of human resources, one thing that we did some thinking around is you might have some employees who you've laid off. Maybe you want to bring them back, but you're feeling really overwhelmed trying to pull all this together. And maybe this is an opportunity to think about, instead of having them just come in and be at your cash register, do they have another skill set that you can put to work? And also just making sure, if you're not already thinking about it, but what is your written policy going to be for your employees with sick time and not coming in, things of that sort.
And the point I would make on this is that, you know, this is the time for you to really think about your business and what's going to be great for you going forward. We all love our employees, but there might be, you know, a moment where you say, I might have to let somebody go. And, you know, this is the time to really reassess and decide who are those people that you want to bring back, you know, and what phase do you want to bring them back? There are going to be a lot of people out in the workforce. Maybe it's time to change employee culture. This is a reset button, you know, in that way, which is a good thing. And, you know, this is a time that you can really control how, you know, how your business moves forward and how you're going to work with people. And it's a really good time to really think about how to put those human resources policies into real words and really clean up that piece of your business if you haven't already.
Yeah, everybody in your business might need to do a more diverse set of tasks. So the second wave, certainly not something we want to think about, but we have to think about it because uncertainty makes it, you know, difficult, if not impossible, for business to do any amount of planning, which is where I wanted to mention what Maura already mentioned, which is their live plan. Scenario planning might be something that you guys want to do a little bit of. Second wave, just cash reserves. I know that that's probably an impossible thing for most of you guys to be thinking about right now. But when you start putting together a new plan, that's something that you're going to have to take in consideration, that it's just going to have to be, there's going to have to be more of it. And then for retail, I know most retail is not really, you guys don't have the same kind of delivery service considerations, or you haven't in the past, that restaurants have been using for a long time, but you're going to have a local delivery plan of some kind, working with something like Postmates, so that people can order stuff and get it same day. And then keep looking for ways to I'm going to mute myself so I can take care of my dog. Pam, you want to handle the slide?
Sure. And so this is the opportunities for new consumer behavior. But before I do that, I want to talk about the slide we just had, and I can't move it back, but we were talking about the second wave, and there's 3 levels of thought here. There's either a V, a U, or an L that we're going to either go down and go back up. We're either going to U it out or we're going to L, and we don't know what that is yet. But as we move into the second wave, we need to anticipate all of those different things, and we need to think about if I'm going to if the economy is going to come right back. Is there a second wave? Is there going to be a second V? And how do I prepare for that? And so those are the kind of things we want you to be thinking about as we move forward. And this is where I do think that that Maura is going to be helpful too. So let's see. Then we can switch the slide forward. Opportunities in new consumer behavior. This is about changing the way that you're doing things. I mean, obviously, consumer behavior has changed. We're all, what we didn't do 3 months ago, we are doing easily now. And we're basically saying that there's going to be a lot of people not going back to the old way of doing things. So if you haven't shifted to online order or prepayment or something like that, now's the time to be thinking about it. And do you need to shift to value-oriented merchandise? If you have something in that $50 category, people are going to be feeling the financial stress here. So maybe is it time to not get rid of that $50 face lotion, but is it the time to start thinking about a $10 or $15 face lotion to have in your store along with that high value item? And those are the kind of things that we think you need to be thinking about. Being the expert online is going to draw more people to your site. It's going to draw more people into the store. It's definitely a way for you to really establish yourself as the expert. So that's a good way to really market your business and get people looking at you. And I think you need to diversify your platforms. If you've got a lot of local artists and local things that you've curated in your store, think about selling them on Etsy and getting out there on Instagram. You need to have stores in both of those places rather than just Shopify.
Yeah, I think that this is a good opportunity for you guys to just reach out to your normal social networks and ask them, like, what's their experience been? I mean, I personally, my son is outgrowing all of his clothes, and what a bad time for me to have to try to buy clothes for a kid, right? So just like, what are some opportunities that you guys can find? This new consumer behavior, our needs haven't changed, but how we feel them is going to change. And you guys are perfectly poised to jump in there and meet those needs for your local community that really wants to support you guys. So I know that this is a big thing that everybody's looking for guidance. It's still the Wild West in terms of guidance, but things are starting to gel, particularly with parts of the country that are in the middle of this right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about physical operational changes that you will need to implement. So Pam, this is yours, this one.
I think the most important thing that you need to think about when, reopening the store is preparing. You need to have that clear and consistent messaging. You need to know what you're going to do when you reopen. Your staff needs to know, and your consumers all need to know, and your customers as they're walking through. So make sure it's clear, make sure it's consistent, and stick with it. And safety is going to be the biggest concern. Obviously, you're going to want to have some sort of a sanitizing policy. You're going to want to think about, if you're an apparel store, you've got to think about, are we going to have our dressing rooms open? What's it going to look like after someone leaves the dressing room? What are we going to do about, wiping down counters? How are we going to make sure that people feel safe when they come into the store? So things to be thinking about. And again, it's all about training your staff. When they are clear and understand what your policies are, they're going to be able to then communicate that effectively to the customers and be able to handle the situations. People are tense right now, and I think we've seen some of that. And so we want to make sure that, that we're very clear in what we're saying and, consistent in the policies, so that when people come in, they really know what they're getting.
Yeah, we're talking before this, and we were preparing for this, about our different experiences going into different stores. I went to Target yesterday and was just shocked that they just didn't have a protocol that was visible and really clearly communicated for wiping down their shopping carts. And it was like a little bit alarming to me. So I think our takeaway here is to make sure that people understand how you're making your space safe for them. It's really evident to them. They don't have to do any guesswork.
And I think she makes a really good point. I think, you know, you get a little nervous when you go to one of the stores. I went to Target too, and there's nobody there. You know, you have no idea what's going on with the cart or anything. And then think about, you know, when you go to Whole Foods, you know, there's a person standing outside who's spraying down the cart and handing it to you, and he's got gloves on and a mask. You just feel much more comfortable, you know, and that's the way you're going to have to think about your store. You're going to have to think about the use of your restrooms. You know, are you going to allow them to be open to the public? You know, and if somebody from the public does use it, who's going to wipe that down? How many people are going to be on the floor at the time? And maybe some cues for people for where to stand, you know, especially if they're standing in line. You know, those are all things to be thinking about.
So Chris, we have Senator Farnese has also raised his hand again. Senator, I've unmuted you.
Thank you. I just, to the point about the wiping down, something that I've seen, and I don't know, but other folks have seen this, but for instance, and this was early on, maybe last week in March, third or fourth week, people using the self-checkouts and the ATMs in the CVSs. So what I saw was they were observing the social distancing where they were using the self-checkouts, but there was no one looked like after was wiping down afterwards. Now, you know, we know that this thing can live on, you know, that's on screens, that people are touching screens. So, you know, how about, you know, we certainly have to deal with things like that. And, you know, I guess with folks that have ATMs in their places of business, whatever like that. So I think we have, you know, there's definitely pieces of this with the social distancing that and cleaning of the products that is really important, you know, to emphasize that. I mean, I don't know if we have been as diligent about this, at least during these last couple of weeks, but it was something I noticed very early on, and I didn't know if it's something that, you know, we think we'll be addressing moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I used to leave my house with a Ziploc bag that had a wipe in it, and so if I had to touch a surface, I brought it with me. But I definitely think that any place in your store where people are going to have to touch something would be a point where you would want to place something sanitizing, self-sanitizing for them. Okay, so some indoor physical accommodations. One thing, Art Star, I know you guys are on here, that occurred to me when I talked to you guys yesterday was how much you guys did such a great job selling stuff online that you had to spend most of your day packing and shipping stuff, which meant that you needed a place to do it. You needed more space to set up, to package and put all those packages and then get them out the door, which might mean that some of you guys need less display space. So something to think about. The other thing is just how you're actually going to set up a curbside service center when that becomes part of our next phase of operation. If you haven't already started to think about how you're going to do that, now's the time. We've already talked about adding some hand sanitizing stations. Just walk through your own shop and just think, if you were a customer, where would you want one? And then extra time, just allowing that extra time for your staff to do that kind of cleaning. One thing that I think is really important, I think you guys have probably seen some stuff in the news recently, is just training your staff about how to deal with an uncooperative customer. And then of course, if anybody's having any issues, relate that to me. I would get the police involved. Hands-free bathroom amenities, again, if you guys might just want to consider closing your bathrooms from a retail perspective, if it's possible. But for restaurants, that's not really possible. And so, you know, that's an option for them, just moving some of those amenities hand-free. And then I know that some of you guys already sublet part of your space, but that seems like it might be a wave of the future for retail. All right, so Pam found this handy dandy picture on the internet.
This is Rhode Island, open today, and this was the graphic they put out that was a suggestion to their retailers, things to think about. And as you can see, you know, you've got people standing outside at different queues. There's only a certain number of people allowed in the stores. there's some pretty interesting stuff here. Now, we have no idea what Pennsylvania is going to do, whether these are going to be our regulations or our protocols. These are, again, Rhode Island's, but it gives us at least a hint of where it's going. I thought the interesting one here is removing any of the samples, anything that hand lotions, lipsticks, anything that could cause, human contact, basically, are now gone. They do obviously recommend the contactless payment. So this was interesting to me. I thought this might be helpful. Trying to think. I thought I had another thought on that. Do you have anything else, Chris?
Well, there is a question in the chat in regards to sanitizing. It's, as you guys know, it's been very difficult to find sanitizing products. So how is that going to be able to address, considering we need to have all these sanitizing products in stores, but there's no access to them?
Right. I know that there's a lot of, like I said, those craft ones that are coming out. I think it might be, it might take a little effort on your part to find some of those things. I don't know if you're meaning finding sanitizing things for you to use or things or products for you to sell. I'm not sure which one.
I think it's just generally, and Sarah, who posed the question, please feel free to unmute yourself and clarify, but I would imagine it's anything, Clorox wash, hand sanitizer, just in general, it's tough to get these products.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Pam brought up the point of working with some of our local producers.
I was good. If I could just put in a lot of the small distilleries around Pennsylvania has switched their making of alcohol, not for consumption, but for creating the alcohol to make hand sanitizers. And they're even to the point where they're selling them in the little, what would we used to call them, the airport bottles?
Travel size. Whatever
you want to call it. So that you might want to contact the PA Distillery Association because they're trying to coordinate from the distilleries all over Pennsylvania to try and fill in that gap. And you might be able to, as an association, buy a flat, in which case you could work it out through the local businesses.
Yeah, so Sarah's question seems to be about cleaning the spaces down. I think potentially the same products could be used if bought in the right size container. But I do think this is where BIDS and other similar organizations can collectivize the purchase for our business community.
I would also like to point out that the things we're talking about, the safety protocols, the sanitizing, the cleanliness, these are going to be your marketing differentiations. You are not only going to want to do this for the health and safety of you, your employees, and your clients, but this is what actually is going to help drive people to your business rather than any others. So you want to have a way to communicate all of the things that you're doing in a really clear way to your potential customers. And if you're taking your cues from some of the large industries, you can see the hotel chains that are starting to kind of try to get people back in. That's what they're emphasizing now is cleanliness. And there are commercials for, it's either Hilton or Marriott, but it's one of the biggest chains that their new selling point is cleanliness and all of these steps that they're doing in between guests and every morning while you're staying there and everything else. And that's their differentiation. That's their selling point. So all of the things that we're talking about, this is what is going to help. This is your marketing tool, your best marketing tool, even better than your product, because nobody's product is ever so unique that they're usually you're not the only one selling it or there's something comparable. What's going to bring the people back? Knowing that they're safe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So one more thought on this slide, you see the people standing outside on the sidewalk there, and there is a potential that, we're going to end up at a situation once places open that people are going to be, wanting to get into your store and lining up on the sidewalks. And at the same time, we're trying to not only help retailers, we're trying to help restaurants, we're trying to help our whole neighborhood. And so there is going to be a point where, we're hoping that, some outside seating might be possible for restaurants, and there could be potential of your clients in the way, and there's some distancing issues that could pop up between the restaurants, between your store and all of that. And so I would say at this point, let's start thinking about that, and let's start reaching out to our neighbors. If you happen to be next door to a restaurant, let's start talking to them. And, obviously we can put you in touch with your neighbors if you don't know them, but let's start thinking about, how this is going to look, so that we can all cooperate, because everybody wants people to come back and we all want to do it in a collaborative way. And so it's going to be, we would rather be proactive about this and do it in a positive way than end up with issues.
Yeah, I mean, outdoor space is certainly going to be at a premium this summer. So messaging, for sure, we've talked about this a couple times, which means that it must be important. So displaying your hours of operation outside prominently in your windows. I can't emphasize enough how telling people when you're open is going to be really important. Everybody's operating on different hours than they probably used to. You guys have a lot on your plates. A lot of you guys are just 1 or 2 people running an entire store. And understandably, you might not have your store open for as many hours as you used to, because you have lots of other things to worry about. We've talked about this, but I'm going to hammer it home. Just displaying prominently how people can use and when and how they can use dressing rooms, how they can try things on. Do you want people touching merchandise, or do you want them asking you to handle the merchandise for them so that they can take a look at it? Not everybody deals in clothing. Outdoor chalkboards. I think that we've seen a really interesting shift to hyperlocal. Your neighbors are now your best customers, and you want to be able to utilize every exterior tool as they're walking around the neighborhood, so that they know that you're open and how they can purchase from you. And then ensuring consistency across all of your channels, not just what you put in your window, but on your website, on your social media. And I know that Maura, you've touched on some of the tools that you guys offer to help people collate all of these different platforms. And that's something that we're going to get into in a minute when we talk about marketing. So marketing, this is a pet peeve of mine, but Facebook is not a website. It's a platform. You don't own it. And honestly, not everyone uses it. Fewer people use it now than probably last year. And people are still using search engines to try to find restaurants and merchandise in their local area. It's going to be a very loud and competitive market as things open up, and everybody's going to want to try to draw their customers in. So getting back to some of Maura's points and Pam's points about like, what is your new selling proposition? You're going to have to hone in on that. Right, so let's move into it. Diversifying platforms, we talked a little bit about that, but it's not just in terms of where you sell, but where you communicate it. Again, Facebook is not your website. Shopify, so Maura, you guys, you offer help specifically on this one point, right? Integrating Shopify and e-commerce?
Yes, integrating e-commerce payment techniques. It doesn't have to be Shopify for people who are trying to use PayPal or Venmo and trying to integrate it into their existing in-person point of sale system. So that they only have one way to, it's a little easier from an accounting and administrative to handle one system rather than 18.
And as a shopper, I can tell you that I have come across an old website or two for some of our merchants. So this is a good opportunity for you guys to remove your old stuff and make sure that, what you want people buying from is the thing that they find.
EG, come here.
The homepage on your website should match everything else, your hours and how people can purchase from you. Make sure that your website looks good on mobile and tablet. And maybe, again, this is a good opportunity, particularly anybody who is accessing PPP funding and does want to put their staff to work. If you have somebody on your staff who's got some talents in this is something you can put them to work doing so you don't feel so overwhelmed.
Yeah, and to quickly interject on that place as well, one suggestion is, and I think you may be getting into this, Chris, especially with the thumbnail pictures on the next slide, but another way you can go about in like improving your SEO and marketing presence in search engines and whatnot is to really utilize, and sorry for the oh, sirens in the background, but Google My Business, it's kind of like Google's Facebook, you know, it's Facebook for Google. So if you do a search for anything, then it'll come up and it'll be on the right-hand side of the page if you're on a computer. I actually just did a search just to kind of like trial it on my phone, and it was the second block. The first was like the website I was actually looking for. And then the second block was the Google My Business profile. And it was right there, prominent in the search. That can be your place to really like be easy for people to find. And then in addition to that, you know, you can offer, promotions and everything and like update people on it, again, making it kind of like Facebook in regards to interacting with customers. So just something to also look into during this downtime.
Hey, Maura, quick question. Do you guys have anybody that you work with that if somebody really wanted to set this up and was having a hard time that could help them?
We have a list of people that we've used. We don't make individual recommendations just because we can't be responsible if you have a bad experience with someone.
Okay.
But we also show you what to look for or teach you what to look for. We're very much about teaching you to fish rather than giving you a fish.
All right. So I showed this yesterday, on Wednesday, and we can look at, it's important for you to understand how people are viewing your business who are not you. So in this instance, I just grabbed the URL from each of these websites and threw it into something to share with somebody. And these were the pictures that came up. So you guys should be taking this time to just audit how you're being viewed and put your best foot forward. Because, Joe Steaks are great, but that guy, I don't know about that. So just like controlling your image, I pulled this on Seiko. This was a conversation mostly for the restaurants, but I think it's still a good, useful tool for you guys. That Seiko's actual website, where you get the most accurate information about them from them, was number 7. So it's important to kind of do your own, search yourself, have your friends search you, have your mom search you, and try to find ways so that this is how people find you, like not the wrong thing. Sorry, that wasn't very eloquent, but you know what I'm saying. Right. What's their experience trying to buy something from you on the internet? All right, so like we pulled this. This is great. Bimini did a really good job. They actually took their homepage and they retooled it completely, and it is literally like a great example of exactly all of the information that somebody's really concerned about COVID-19, but really wants to order something from Bimini. They know exactly how, right? And they don't have to kind of click through a bunch of stuff to get there. It's right on the homepage, and there's like an order now online thing right there. It just gives them the call to action. It's sort of like a real good textbook sample. So I would encourage all of you to go back to your websites and make sure that it has like really up-to-date, clear, communicated information about how people can buy things from you. All right, so digital and social media, I think a lot of you guys do a really great job of this already, but there were a couple of things that came to our attention. Just like a reminder video, like walking people through your shop. You know, they miss coming in and shopping. I miss going shopping. Like, I think it'd be a nice thing for people to just have an opportunity and just come in and like relook at your shop. You can show them the things. It's not just a static picture. You get to interact with it a little bit. Strategic partnerships. We talked a little bit about like how maybe you can work with your neighbors. I think that this is just a really great opportunity for you guys to just try to cross-sell with other kinds of businesses. Start trying to work with your restaurant neighbors, even your service providers. I mean, we were thinking of things even before this of like, you know, brunch and a haircut deals. So start trying to think of ways that you can work with other businesses to really amplify what you guys can do. Behind the scenes stuff, again, like, I don't know, I think that there's like a great opportunity for them to get to know you guys as business owners better and see what's really unique about your stores.
Be a fun video there would be some, if you are doing a lot of online, you know, show that you are doing online sales and that things are going out the door and there's activity happening, and you know, people go, wow, they're getting a lot of sales, I got to check out what's going on in their store. So take videos of that and be human, you know, let people know who you are.
Right, all those boxes that you're boxing up and shipping to people, show it. So we have a couple of free resources to offer as the bid. So we're going to be ordering some branded chalkboards for you guys to put outside. We have some free open for business banners that if you want one, let me know and I can get one ordered for you. We still have grant programs that we run for sidewalks and also for storefront improvement. I know the city's storefront improvement program is shut down temporarily. But we actually have a small grant program that was designed to infill that. So if you have something specific that you really want to do, if you want to get some planters for spring, if you want to do a decal for your window, get in touch because we have some money for that. We also work with a PR agent. So like if you guys have a story to tell, like reach out. We'd love to try to help get you guys some earned media. And then other business in the neighborhood, M3 Printing, they actually have created some packages that businesses can buy that include masks and things like that. And Christini Motorcycles actually has gotten some face masks and shields too. So if you guys need to get some materials for you yourself and your employees, there's some people in the neighborhood selling them. So now that we're done talking, I think we can probably unmute everybody. We really just wanted to have an open conversation. We wanted to hear from you guys, what your experiences have been, if this has been helpful, if there's more things that you guys want to talk about. Now's the time.
Hi, Christina. This is Mark Squilla.
Yep.
I just want to say too that I think it's a great idea. Some of the commercial carters have gotten together, and I'm sorry about the fire engines in the background, but gotten together and sent some sample ideas on how they perceive their businesses are able to open and what does their business look like in the way of the coronavirus, and knowing that they're probably have to operate it in some sense differently than they did before. We believe that I believe if we wait for government to make all these decisions for us, there'll be a lot of unintended consequences when you open and maybe be able to operate, maybe not be able to operate. So if you guys collectively to get together and say, we have a retail store, we think this is how we could do it. We could use, if we have this much square feet, we could have 8 people in our place and the rest outside with markings and people with PPEs and things like that, just to get the ideas. Because unfortunately, our health commissioner says we're not going to open up until we have less than 50 cases a day for 14 consecutive days. That may never come for a while. We have to change that mindset. I think we have to look at it in that we're testing more people, which is great, and we want to test more people, but as we do that, we're going to probably get more cases. So I think if we have ideas from the commercial carters and the businesses themselves working together, providing them to the administration, it will help change their mind, knowing that we could go back to business safely without jeopardizing, people's health, and that the chances that we get to a point where we only have 50 or less cases 14 days in a row, and one day we go over 50, we have to start over again and do another 14 days. It's going to be difficult. So I think a new way of thinking, reimagining things is going to be very helpful to help the people making the decision decide on how and when to open up. That's just my 2 cents. It's what it's worth, but I've been pushing it, and hopefully we'll continue to advocate that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, that having the reopening be more business driven, what works for businesses rather than the other way around. Yeah.
And I understand the health commissioner, his job is health, right? But our job is the health of the people, but also the health of the businesses and the health of society and the mental health and the anxiety and everything else that goes along with this. there's a lot of aspects that we have to take into consideration. And yeah, well, some people still contract the virus when they're out. Absolutely, they will. But I think as we reimagine our businesses and reimagine the city, we need the help from the people in the industry to do that. And if they help us and say, you know, this won't be a great opportunity, it won't make our business make $1 million, but we're able to stay alive long enough until we get back to some type of normality.
Does anybody have any questions for Commerce Department at this time? Our representative, Joshua, has to jump off, but this is a good chance if you guys have questions for him.
Before you get to that, just because I do have to jump off too,
Okay.
to piggyback off of what Councilman Scola was saying, is I think we're going to take a lesson in the next week or two, certainly from other parts of the state opening up and how they're figuring out how to do it, because I know that in the rest of the Commonwealth, there's, you know, an uneasy feeling of, well, what about me? Why can't we? And where the scientists are driving this, you know, we are going to have to figure out what our economy is going to have to be in a safe way. We aren't going to be locked down forever. We've learned much about this virus, and we're learning more every day on how to handle it. And we're not going to be locked down forever. As I stated in the beginning of this, I think it's really going to be the rolling back from the west back to the east as has started. And so that's why I again say, start thinking about just even the basics with your business. If you're going to have people coming in, go in and start doing the infrastructure, the cleaning, the sanitizing, you know, configuration of how you can safely social distance so that people do feel the safety coming into your business. And that's next time we meet, hopefully we'll have a better idea of when we're going to open and where we can be. And again, my office is always happy to be a resource for you. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming. All right. Does anybody from our business community want to kind of share any of your experiences at this point that, you know, we can kind of talk about it? I know some of our officials have to jump off right now, but we wanted to also make sure that this was a chance for you guys to just talk to each other. I know that we haven't been able to run into each other in the street like we used to. So. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming, for sticking with us. Thanks to our guests. We'll make this available for everybody to access later. And then, you know, feel free to privately share any thoughts or feelings if you didn't really feel comfortable saying them out loud in the meeting. And then maybe we'll get together and have a less structured meeting that's a little bit more open in a week or two, and kind of see how you guys are doing and what we can do to help.
I want to say one other thing, Chris. It's Mark Squill again. Sometimes people do feel uncomfortable saying things in public forums as they're recorded. But if they like to email me ideas and what they think, I'd be happy to hear them and share them with the administration as we move forward. We got to work on this together, and we can't have one person's idea dictate everything. So whatever ideas, if you don't want to share in the public forum, happy to do it by email or even a phone call to our office. Be happy to reach back out to you. So thank you for what you're doing. Keep up the good work and hang in there and stay safe.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay, everybody. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Again, if anybody needs my information, I believe it's on here. We have some links. Again, we'll share this with everybody. Some links that might be kind of additional reading that'd be really helpful for people to take a look at. And then we have my email, Pam's email, and Maura at Small Business Temple, her email as well, so people can reach out directly to her. All right, well, thanks a lot, and we hope to see you guys real soon.